Hey, Ray, thanks for joining us today. As a way of getting started, give us a little background on yourself.
Morning, Brian. Thanks for having me. I've been in distribution sales for gosh, probably about 28 years. Engineering, purchasing, project management, personnel management for, almost 2 decades before that.
Yeah. And why sales?
It's funny. I ended up in sales kind of accidentally. I was dealing with people like me at the time, and I thought, you know what? I can do a better job than this. I should try. And
Yeah.
that's what got me where I am.
And what did you see them doing wrong?
There were lots of things, not returning phone calls, not returning voicemails, discussing one thing and quoting or then trying to push you into something else. And I thought, gosh, that's just kind of bad form for me.
What did you want them to do?
Well, maybe actually follow through, do what they said they were going to do, or
Yeah.
you know, if you're going to move me into something else, tell me why you're doing it. Don't just send me a quote for something we never discussed and say, here what? Come on, help me here.
Yeah.
So no sales process.
And what was that first year like in sales?
Exciting.
Yeah.
You know how it is when somebody gives you a territory and says, "Here's your territory, and here's what it's doing, and this is great." And then you get in the territory and you go, "Uh-oh, this is nothing like what it was supposed to be."
Oh, somebody misled you?
Yeah, maybe a little. It was sink or swim, and I was committed, so sinking wasn't an option.
Well, what was your motive other than just feeling you could do it better?
There was so I worked nights, weekends, holidays. Anytime somebody was in the building, I had to be there. And so I started my day at 6 o'clock in the morning and ended up getting home at 8 or 9 at night. And days like that went on and on and on. And I said, you know what? There's got to be a better way, to earn a living for my family than this.
Yeah. And how did you learn to become good at sales?
I think the advantage was being at a disadvantage, right?
Yeah.
Um, Not knowing what you don't know forces you to pay attention, forces you to listen, forces you to scramble to find things for people that actually work. And maybe sometimes it wasn't the straight line through. Sometimes you went around the block before you got to where you were going.
I always said, because people talk about mentors all the time, but I've also had what I call anti mentors, kind of role models of what you don't want to become.
Ah,
Well, because in your situation, when you saw bad selling, when either it wasn't important enough to get back to them, or they were disorganized not to get back to you, or they quoted you something that served them better than you, or it was a replacement or what they thought could be a replacement, you see what not to do is just as important to see as what to do.
absolutely, 100% true.
Yeah. And when I see people, like when you're growing up, it's like, look at the people, 5, 10, 15, 20 years ahead of you in age and time, and see how their lives turned out.
Yep,
And if it's what you want, that's a mentor. If it's what you
yep.
don't want, that's an anti-mentor.
And yep, exactly, exactly. You know, it's funny you mention that because I think at some point in our sales career, we all tend to become a little bit of the anti-mentor, and we kind of sabotage ourselves for a period of time before we wake up and realize what we're doing. And sometimes that's someone else's perspective that's put to us, and sometimes we wake up and we go, "Uh-oh." And I don't think that anybody's trajectory in the sales business is straight up. I think we've all gone up and we've all gone down. And I think recognizing that is key and critical.
Yeah, because I mean that first lull, what I call the B player trap, and I can almost tell when I talk to somebody when you hear words like obviously or sales 101, yet they don't do it.
Right.
Right? So you're like, they know what the right thing to do is, but they're just not doing it.
Right. Right. And that I think to a certain degree you hit a comfort zone and you go, okay, I can coast like this for a while,
Yeah.
and then something happens and it knocks you off your high chair back down onto the floor, and then you've got to figure out how to scramble back up there again.
Yeah, because one of the things about B2B sales and working for somebody else, working for a company, is that they're constantly resetting your skill set and your goals. You do
True.
200%, you lose a half your territory and double your number. So now with one quarter the opportunity, you have to hit the same amount.
Correct. Correct. And there were a lot of people that told me, you know, don't worry about this because this gives you more time to focus on what's really
Focus on what's not
important.
buying.
You know, and for me personally, that actually worked, right?
It
The
can. Yeah.
non-buyers became the new buyers, and then everybody was amazed. They were like, how did he do that? You know, they're again, sink or swim, right? What are you going to do? We can only play with the cards we're dealt, and sometimes we don't get four aces in a hand. We have to do something.
Yeah, I'm always amazed at the people that would stay at a company because if they do that every year, eventually you're down to one department in one company.
Correct, correct. And and you see a lot of people, a lot of good people leave during that because they just don't have the ability to hang in there, right? They're immediately disillusioned and give up. And you say, gosh, but I've always found that um, you have more skin in the game if you've built it, as opposed to if somebody else has built it and handed it to you and said, here, now go take care of this.
Yeah.
When you've done it, you have a lot more doors to open, I think.
If you were to build a salesperson, let's say you got CRISPR or you were a gene PhD, what would the ingredients be?
I think I think the listening skill is way more important than the talking skill.
Yeah.
I think the resourcefulness may even be worth more than the education. I think that the ability to it's it's like you're working somewhere and they go, hey, the trash is full, take out the trash, and a lot of people won't do that because that's not my job, it's beneath me, I'm not doing it. I think a good salesperson would pick up the trash can and run it out the back door and say, gee, that didn't take any time at all.
I think a lot of sales fits into that analogy where fighting it, ignoring it is much more expensive than doing it.
Absolutely true. And especially now, right, that the supply chain has kind of become the supply rubber band, and we've stretched it about as far as we can stretch it, knowing that that thing's going to come back and snap us in the hand at some point. I think right now, it's almost a scary time to be in sales because of what we see coming on the horizon.
Well, it's always been a scary time because it is because just by nature you got half your income at risk. The company, looks at you. You're a player, but you're not like an engineer, right?
Correct.
Yeah,
Correct.
and it's assumed that you're up there to figure it out. Uh, how did you become good at sales? What were the steps, both the smart ones and the ones that were false positive?
So I think that again, my disadvantage was my advantage, right? I started in this from a completely alternate universe, right? I was doing something else entirely, but I had to fix the stuff I was working with. And in fixing it, I realized, hey, there's something to this. And then going into the engineering world and finding out that, hey, all the pieces and parts that I'm familiar with are right here in front of me, and learning about those pieces and parts. So, listening skills, I listened because people were telling me, okay, here's what this is, here's how it works, here's what you do to fix it. Um, and so I realized that from the customer standpoint, there was a story that they were trying to tell me also. And some of them actually didn't have the hands-on experience that I had with the product. So, they felt one way or thought one thing, and actually didn't really get it, didn't really understand the synergy of it and how it works.
And what do you see other reps doing wrong that
Well,
if they only realized?
ooh, ooh, I think a lot of people are out there doing a good job. I do. I think that some people have a tendency maybe to push their own agenda or be hung up with what they think is right. The fact of the matter is, there's no 100% true right way to catch a fish, right? My 5-year-old was catching fish, when she was 5. She was catching fish and she was doing it the wrong way, but she was catching fish. Am I going to argue with the fact that she caught a fish and I didn't?
Because you were doing it right.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. So, I think everybody's talent set is a little different. Everybody will bring something to the table in a different way. They'll figure out a solution using different tools. I don't know that any one of those is invalid if it gets the job done.
But like the listening, because there's a classic sales, persona that's has the gift for gab, but it just keeps going and going and going. And yet it works in a lot of situations. And you're right, they catch fish, but a lot of people are like, man, if he only slowed down and threw a pause in there every couple minutes.
But so I'll tell you the truth. I've heard that. That's been aimed at
I'm
me.
not the only one who noticed this.
Nope. Nope. That's been aimed at me rather frequently. And it's
Really?
it's it's a completely conscious effort that I really have to focus on in myself.
And did someone point it out or
Yes. Yes. So, sales managers at one point pointed it out. A few customers pointed it out and said, you had me in the first 5 minutes of the presentation. You could have shut up and and
got
and
an
we could have
order?
had a really nice time together. You cannot learn by not doing.
And how did you receive it at first?
Well, it hurt.
Of course.
It
Yeah.
troubled me because I thought, boy, I did a good job. But sometimes a good job is less, right? Sometimes less is more.
And how long did it take before you were like, that was a gift?
It took a little bit. I actually had to own up to it. I actually had to stop and think about it and focus on it and realize that, by golly, that works. you know but it wasn't instant. It wasn't, okay, I'm going to change the way I'm doing everything from now on. It took a little time.
Right. Our natural reaction is to negotiate, explain why.
Yep.
Yeah. Oh, I was just on a roll. They were interested. Oh, I thought you wanted more, that you were
Yep.
doing it for them, but you weren't.
Absolutely.
Who were you
Nope.
doing it for?
Well, it's sometimes it's just our natural nervous response to things, right? Sometimes we're trying to be the big man on campus.
Well,
Uh,
you see it as your job. It's your
yep,
role.
yep, yep. By golly, I'm going to educate you no matter what.
Yeah. Because that ability to tell somebody something that it's hard. It was probably just as hard for them to tell you as it was for you to hear.
And I think that's probably true. Yep,
But the gift they gave you, it was probably worth like a college education.
agreed. Agreed. And I am thankful for every one of those experiences, in retrospect, right? In the moment, I was like, well, this isn't nice. This isn't fair. But in retrospect, I say, wow, somebody cared enough to tell me the truth. That's important.
And it, I say this, the fastest way to get good at anything is to be able to hear those things and accept
Agreed.
them.
Agreed. Agreed. And that's why, I love your videos because not only do they make those points, but they make those points in a way that's palatable and understandable. And, okay, there's nice scenery in the background, and your facial expressions are priceless 90% of the time. But, the real lesson is not in what you're acting out, but in what you're actually saying.
Yeah. Because I had, when I first became a sales leader, I had a rep and he was a great guy, likable, but you could not get him to stop talking. He get on a roll and it was a good 15-minute little monologue. And then one day he said, it goes, I don't know why I can't connect with people. And I go, do you want to know why?
Uh,
And he said, yeah. And I told him, and he said, I got to go. And I go, uh-oh. Yeah, because I was probably not as polite and soft about it. I was a little annoyed because it's
right.
like, here you are telling me why you're not selling and then asking me to tell you why you're not selling.
Yeah. Yeah. No, exactly. Exactly.
But yeah, we didn't talk for a week after that. And then when we did, he goes, I got to tell you, I talked to my wife and she goes, he's right. And it was the first time she ever shared that with him. And then he goes, why didn't you tell me sooner? And that was on me.
Yep. Yep.
What are some of those other things that if people heard early in their career, that it is like hundreds of thousands of dollars in lost deals opportunities?
You know, it, it, it's weird how much of this ties back to listening, but the customer will always give you the tell, right? If you're picking up on it. Um, we tend to pick up what we're comfortable with, what we know. We tend to react with what we're comfortable with and what we know. And sometimes the sale is outside of my comfort zone. The real sale, right? The little sale, yeah, I can pick that up. But the bigger undertone is, if you get this figured out, then that comes. And I think, it really all ties back to listening. It does.
Well, because listening is not just not talking. It's hearing the words and then digging into the understanding behind the words.
Correct. As opposed to formulating your next response.
Right. But when you start at listening means I've got to try and understand what's going on here, which gets you out of the I know it all comfort zone. I know
Correct.
what's going on out there.
Correct. Correct. Absolutely true.
And
True.
then what comes before listening is curiosity. Why am I listening?
There you go. There you go. And And that's key and critical. You bring up building curiosity, building interest. I can give all the elevator speeches in the world. If the customer has no interest, I'm just breathing air.
Because a lot of like these gift companies approach me and I'm like, well, you understand when you send somebody a gift to have a meeting, I go, it, somewhat a bribe, but you're really not getting their interest. You're renting their interest.
It's true.
So you haven't created interest.
Correct.
You rented it.
Correct.
What we want to do is create it.
Yeah,
And
save your gift until after that meeting when it goes well, as opposed to using it to get the meeting,
yes,
right?
as your follow up, as a sign of appreciation, as a reminder, as a top of mind,
There you go.
something they want.
There you go. There you go. And some people have been successful with the gift giving bribe. There's equal data that says, the people that sent cookies and said I'd like to have a meeting with you, that isn't without all merit,
Not
but
at all. Right. If they like cookies,
yep,
and maybe there was some curiosity or there's some brand awareness that, oh, I should take the meeting. And I think everyone appreciates when you get something, no matter
yes,
how it shows a little bit of effort and certainly some cash.
yeah,
But people also appreciate you being curious about them,
correct.
hearing them out.
Yes. Yes. And I think in today's world we're focused on getting in, getting out, making the deal. We've totally missed the whole personal side of things, right? That when you sit down with someone and they talk about their kids in college or their 2-year-old who just took their first step or said their first word, and they're happy and they're proud and they want to share that moment with you, and you're sitting there going, can I have the PO yet? It doesn't go.
Well, that's it, because where they hire salespeople because there's some gap that's missing between the web page and the customer, right?
Yeah,
It's our
true,
job to fill that gap.
true,
And it's
true.
not that we are a better web page, we're a better person.
Yes,
The other person wants another person to understand what they're trying to accomplish, make sure they get what they need and all they need, and get it done right.
yes, yes.
Otherwise,
You
you
know,
could have a web page.
right. Or the CRM, right? It always cracks me up when I see in a CRM page, what's the customer's birthday? What's his wife's name? What are his kids' name? And I go, I've never filled that out because I never felt like that data should be handed to the next guy. He should earn that data for himself, right? Not read it off some script that I left behind for him to follow. If you haven't made that connection and you don't know his wife's name or his birthday, that's on you.
Right. And I think a lot of people misunderstand the personal small talk piece, because I think you need to be able to talk to that, but you need to also have conversations about what the person cares about at work too, that isn't related to your product.
Correct. Correct. And you find all kinds of internal company data when you get to that point, right? It may be your next contact, it may be their next problem, it may be that somebody's standing in the way of your sale, that you think, oh boy, I'm on the verge of a big sale. Maybe not, but that data gets relayed to you.
And I think people don't value that part. And then they wonder why they're being treated like a transactional rep versus a partner in crime.
Correct. Correct. And we don't all have customers that you can make a decent living on being a transactional rep, right?
Well, insert not a good living. You're not going to
Right.
be in the top 10% by being transactional.
Correct.
You got to be part of the family.
Yep. Yep. You want to be the first guy they call and the last guy they call.
What skill or ability do you wish you had more of or better of that would take your career to the next level?
Um, you know, maybe if I could, and this really all comes back to listening. If I could listen better, um, I think it would help. I've got a pretty good memory. If somebody says something, I have a tendency to log it. If somebody spits out a part number, I have a tendency to remember it. Email addresses and phone numbers, they're all locked up in my head. But, finding the undertone, navigating that is a skill that I wish I could do better. I wish I could do more of that.
I always found the key is to find out what they care about, not the sport, kids, wife, all that stuff. That's easy. But are they looking for a promotion? Are they looking to make a move? Are they looking to be a manager? Are they looking to leapfrog the competitor? Because that is adjacent to our product,
It is.
but that's what they want to talk about.
Yep. Yep. You're right.
Cool.
You're right.
Hey, Ray, I appreciate your time today. Where can people go to connect and follow you?
Um, Boy, that's a good question. They can certainly reach out to me on LinkedIn, um, and get me my cell numbers listed and my email address for the company is listed. But the cell number that's there is my personal, so they can reach out to me there for sure.